Hey you guys, this is your girl Jasmine Yvonne, and I am coming to you guys today to do my nursing Q&A video. Nursing school Q&A video. I have been trying to film this video forever, y'all. Like, y'all just don't know. If something always happened, I couldn't do it. I did film it and then it looked crazy, so I was like, okay, today, for real, I'm gonna do it. Okay, so this video might be long. I'll try to answer questions but not try to go too much off track. But again, y'all know me. If y'all watch any of my other nursing videos, I like to have details because I know how I feel when I want to get information and someone's very vague and I'm like, that didn't help me. So if this video is really long, I will cut it into part 2 and possibly get to another video. If I do a part 2 or whatever the case may be, or I just film this video and just kind of give it to y'all the full version. And if anyone feels that I didn't answer anything or I maybe forgot something, because I do get a lot of questions about nursing school, just ask it in the comments and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can with your questions. So without further ado, let's get started. I saved them, asked you guys on Instagram. I have questions on my YouTube, but I'm gonna get to the questions that I got on Instagram first, just because I did get quite a bit of questions. So the first question is from Davia Beauty. Hello. Hey girl. Question is, what was your hardest semester? So I am going into third semester and I am in an ADN program. So third semester is going to be Med-Surg 2 and maternity / peds, because we take it together. And so far for me, the hardest semester was second semester, just because you do get a lot more information and you have a lot more to do. And fundamentals, we didn't really have, we had like one project and it wasn't really that much, and then we only had one class day and we only had one lab day and clinical day. So I had a lot more free time on my hands. Second semester we had psych, and then we had med-surg, and then we had 2 projects we had to do. We used to have 2 assignments, 2 care plans, just so many things on top of ATI, on top of studying. It was a lot. So it was more overwhelming. Plus the content load was a lot more. And fundamentals, you have a test over like 2 chapters. I think the most was 3 chapters, but it really wasn't 3 because one of the chapters we only covered like 10 pages. When you start getting higher into your classes, you'll start having like 6 chapters, 5 chapters to read over, which is a lot. So it can be overwhelming if, to me it was kind of an adjustment. I went from, I could study barely and I had a lot more free time on my hand to pretty much my whole week was taken up. So to me, so far, second semester, I do hear that third semester is the hardest from everyone. Some people say it's not that bad, you just have to time manage, but some people are like, it was horrible. So I'm just gonna, if it changes, I'll tell y'all, like, this is the worst semester of my life. But so far, second semester for me has been the hardest. Second question, this is from the same person. How did you balance your school life with family life? So for me, I balanced it by giving myself free days to do whatever I wanted to do. So throughout the week, I would try to get my studying and things done earlier in the week, or say if I worked, like a Saturday morning or something, I would try to get my work done at work, and then I could leave work and go do what I wanted to do. So that to me helped me to balance everything. It's just trying to plan everything to the T, meaning, all right, I'm gonna study Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday a little bit, and then maybe a little bit Saturday, and then after that I'm not gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna chillax. Of course, if you have a test like Monday, you're gonna probably study all day Sunday, but I try to at least give myself a day to kind of chillax and get my mind right and to spend time with my family, or if you have a significant other, you can do that as well. Try to plan your week accordingly so that you get all your work, studying, care plans, everything done at the beginning of the week, so that when you get to a weekend day, you have free time to be with your family, be with your boyfriend, be with your girlfriend, and enjoy their presence. Because if you're someone who you're very unorganized, you will see that that's when stuff gets unbalanced, when you're unorganized. Because if you're someone who you're just kind of going with the flow, and you wait till last minute, you're not going to be able to, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been at school all week and now it's like weekend, I want to go out with my friends, but I can't because I waited so long to do this paper or this care plan or study. That's when you start to see that, you know, you won't have a life. So really, honestly, the way to balance everything is always to stay organized, plan everything so that you can have a life, if that makes sense. All right, next question. Have you experienced any death or near-death experience? If so, how did you cope? Yes, I did do a video, which I will leave that below, and I did talk about my first cold that a patient died. And my first cold, I did touch on it again in the other video, but for the most part, it was depressing for me. I cried throughout the whole day. And then once I stopped crying, I kept thinking about this person. I kept replaying the scenario, the cold in my head. I will never forget this person ever in my life. It's hard because everybody's different. People have different emotions. There's some people in my externship who they seen a death and it didn't really bother them. But for me personally, it really bothered me just because I'd never seen anyone die. Some people are better prepared because they worked in healthcare before, or maybe they had a family member that passed, because I've talked to some people who said I've seen my mom die or a grandpa die. I was at their bedside, so it doesn't make them as emotional. But if it does make you emotional, the way that I coped was I just prayed and I just let it out. I cried. Of course, you know, sometimes you don't want to cry because you feel like that shows weakness, but I cried. And I talked to a nurse and she was the sweetest thing, and she just told me, you know, talk to me through it. I prayed for this person, and if I felt like crying, I cried about it, and then I just prayed some more. That's just kind of how I dealt with it. I feel like when you do work in a critical care area, you will see death a lot. And a lot of people, when you get into nursing school, you'll see that mostly everyone wants to work in the emergency room, ICU, STICU, which is surgical trauma, heart ICU. A lot of people like to want to work in like an ICU, critical care, emergency room, STICU type of situation. You rarely hear people you rarely hear people say, I want to work in OR. Like, I have only 1 or 2 people that I've met since being in nursing school that said they want to work in OR or med surg. So you'll see a lot of death, and honestly, you have to be prepared for that, but there's no way to prepare for it. It's really no way to get your mind ready to see someone pass. So again, when it does happen, whatever emotions you're feeling, let it out. If you feel like crying, go cry. If you feel angry, go pray, go in the break room, whatever you have to do. For me, again, how I coped is I literally just went and I cried and I cried and I prayed, and that's just kind of how I did that for literally a whole entire day. Throughout the day, I just kept, my emotions were all over the place. I kept talking about it. I know people probably like, shut up, but I kept talking about it because that was just how I was able to get all that out, because you kind of have to mini grieve. Again, if you're someone like me who you kind of get emotional with things that you never experienced before. So that's just kind of how I dealt with it. But again, I'm telling you guys now, if you want to work in any type of critical care, you will see a lot of death, and you have to, that's something to think about if you decide to work in, because some people can't handle death. I've gotten to the point now where I've seen a couple, like I think I've seen another cold since I've been there, and then I bagged a body up. I didn't see them pass, but I did help when they did pass. I bagged their body, and to now it doesn't, it still is like, it hurts and you still gotta pray for the person. It still is like, you know, this is sad, but it's not to the point now where I'm like crying and bawling and like, you know, going crazy, and I don't want to be in the room or anything like that. So you do kind of not get adjusted, but you kind of get better at controlling your emotions, and you know, and so forth. And then it's a part of life, and you just kind of have to think about like, maybe this was just God saying this is their time, and it's nothing, it was out of your control. As long as you do what you gotta do, that's all you can really do at that point, and that's just it. So that's just how I cope and deal with it. But that is something to think about if you do decide, because if you're someone who you just cannot take it, like you see one death, you're bawling your eyes out, you see another death, and you just keep seeing death, and you're like, you cannot take it, or you start thinking crazy mentally for your own self, then I would definitely think about maybe finding some other floor or unit that you would like to work at. Alright, how have you experienced nurses eating their young during clinicals? This is a good question, girl. This is a good question. Yes. When you get into clinicals, I've seen some people say, oh my gosh, all my clinicals were amazing, everybody was so nice. And honestly, my experience with clinicals, I have had a lot of nurses that don't just fool with students. As a nursing student, we are a little more, I would say, anal. You know, on if you work on a med, okay, if you work on a med surg floor, they have a little bit more leniency with things like vitals and stuff. Like, you know, you can get a high vital or low vital and they can kind of, you know, not take it as seriously. Versus if you're in the ICU, like me, I'm in ICU. So if you see a pressure's low, it's like, oh, you know, let's get the medication, let's get our level fed, let's get where we got to get. Or it's too high, it's like, oh, because it's like everybody's so critical. Versus med surg, most people aren't critical. Most people are totally fine, so they don't really trip a lot. But as a nursing student, you learn your vitals. You're like, all right, this is a normal vital, this is okay, this is too high, this is too low. You learn your normal respiration. So when you get into a floor, if you go, like, you know, sometimes we'll do vitals, well, most of the time we'll do vitals and blood sugar sticks and stuff like that. If we go into a patient's room and they're like, you know, their sat is like 80 or their respiration is like 30, we're gonna be like, oh, what's going on? And you might, you know, of course, because they're told from your instructors that if you get anything abnormally high or low, you need to tell the nurse. And, you know, you'll tell the nurse, and sometimes they'll get annoyed and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you guys are going to ruin my whole day. You know, and you're like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to annoy you, but we were told to tell you, because we can get in trouble and actually get dinged for a clinical, and or actually be asked to leave or fail clinical if we get a vital that's high or really low and we do not say anything. We can. There's people who have been kicked out of clinical or failed the clinical portion of nursing school because of that. So sometimes you'll get nurses that just are like ill nursing students, which sometimes I understand why, because I mean, that is somebody else you have to kind of monitor, because again, sometimes we don't know certain things, so we might do something and you might have to kind of watch after us. But at the same time, we are there to help, we are there to learn. We all been there. Every nurse has been in the same situation. So I personally told myself, when I become a nurse, if I have a student ever, if I'm precepting ever, if I have a new nurse ever, I would like to be as nice to them as possible, because you will have nurses who just kind of treat you like crap and you feel like, wow. There's plenty of times at clinical that I didn't do any clinical stuff. I just did my care plan and I did paperwork and I studied, because I wasn't including anything. And if you are in clinical and a nurse is just being, it's a difference, you know, sometimes they kind of come off very dry and I just kind of say, okay, well, I'll just go do something else or go see what else someone else is doing or another student is doing and help them out. But if, you know, if you have a nurse that's just being truly rude, like on something crazy, then I would say something to your, you know, whoever's your clinical instructor for that time. But you will sometimes, I mean, again, not everybody's clinical experience is the same. Some people have clinical days and they're like, it's amazing, every clinical I had was amazing. But I will tell you now that there will be times in clinical where you are going to be paired with a nurse, or you're going to be around nurses who do not like students, who do not fool with students, who will kind of make you feel very stupid, very incompetent, or make you feel like you're not welcomed and wanted. And it does suck, but that is just a part of it. And I'll just tell y'all now from experience, it does happen. All right, next question. Do you work while in nursing school? If so, how do you manage your time? Yes, my first year of nursing school, I worked at a hotel as front desk clerk, meaning I answered phones, I did reservations, I did all that stuff. I liked that job for the sense it would get stressful at times, like when it was busy or there was an event, but I liked it because I could get work done. I would get my care plans and all my little stuff done, like for clinicals at work, because I could just sit there and do it on the computer while I was waiting for someone to come or do whatever. How I manage my time is, again, it was a desk job, so I could study at work. So say if I was like, I need to study, I would just study at work. I definitely recommend, if you are a nursing student, to try to get a job at least that first year that is like a desk job, or a job that you can have time to study, or you're not going to be working a crazy amount of hours, because it will help you a lot to manage your time, because you can include studying at work. So I didn't really have a hard time managing. I did not work though. I only worked 2 days a week. That was the most I worked. I did not work more than 2 days a week. I only worked 2 days, and that was it. Nothing more, nothing less. I feel like that's all I could handle at the time. So I would just I told, when I got my school schedule and everything like that, I told my job what days I could work, and those were the only days that I worked. Again, it could be different for people because, you know, there's, in the cohort after mine, there's a lot of EMS people, techs. So that's different because if you work full time, your schedule is going to be set a month in advance. There might not be as flexible with you. So I can't really speak on how to manage that, but I will tell you now, if you are a nursing student, you will have to cut your hours eventually, because everyone that I've seen in nursing school who worked a lot, they weren't doing very well in class. So you really have to kind of think about like what goes first. Now, if you have to work, you just have to find a way to manage it, but you always just try to make sure you do all your, if you are someone who works weekends, try to get everything done in the week. Day. That's what I did. I would only work, usually I work Friday, Saturdays, or Saturday, Sundays. I try not to work Sundays. I didn't work Sundays for like a whole semester. So I would do Fridays and Saturdays, and I would get most of my stuff done in the beginning of the week. But again, I had a desk job, so I can get stuff done at work too. What stethoscope do you recommend for nursing students? What stethoscope do you recommend for nursing students to use during nursing school? How did you learn to time manage yourself in nursing school? Alright, this is a good question. This is my stethoscope. I have one back there. It's really expensive. I don't know why I bought it. I was just so happy to be starting nursing school that I was like, I'm about to buy everything. Don't buy the expensive stethoscope. This is my MDF stethoscope. It says on there, and this is the rose gold one, and I love it. It's my baby, and it's only $50. This stethoscope works so good. When you get to nursing school, I'll tell you now, everybody named mama gonna be like, get a Littman. Get a Littman. My mom and my mom say Littman is the best stethoscope. Don't buy a Littman. Littmans are expensive. And I will tell y'all now, there has been so many times in lab that we had to listen to mannequins, and people are like, I don't hear anything. I can't get the blood pressure on the mannequin. I can't hear the lung sounds on the mannequin. And I'll put my baby out and I'll be like, oh, I hear just fine. My mom told me to get this. She was like, this one sounds way better to her than the Littman, and I was like, it does sound really clear for me. I never had any issues with it. Again, most people in my class I've seen have Littmans, but again, there's been so many times where people could not hear breath sounds, lung sounds on their Littman, and I was able to hear it with mine. Not saying again that this one's better than the other one, but personally, for the price and how clear it is and how cute it is, I mean, look at this thing. It's so cute. I think it's worth it. They came out, the only thing with this white one, I wish I would have got the black one, is that it does get kind of like marks on it, which I don't really care because again, I'm in nursing school, it's going to happen. But they do now have this same stethoscope in different color designs. Like they have like galaxy color and like one with pets, so they have really cute designs as well, but it's $50. So I recommend getting this stethoscope MDF for nursing school and using this one, because this one is my baby. It's long too, it has longer tubing, which you want that again in nursing school because you're going to be doing a lot of physical assessments in lab and at clinical. So you definitely want to have a longer stethoscope as well when you're doing physical assessments, because you don't have to be all up on somebody, you know. Ain't nothing worse than a patient who might have something and you don't know, or they might have like ammonia or, you know, something crazy, and then you're like, your stethoscope is short, you're like, let me get on there all up on you, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I hope I don't have nothing on me. I'm just telling the truth. Like, you don't want to be super on somebody, so it's good to have longer tubing. So this is the one that I recommend, MDF, and I will leave the link under this video too, so you guys can test it out. Alright, next question is, how do you learn to time manage? To learn to time manage in nursing school, honestly, you have to just have a planner. That's the only way for you to really learn and force yourself to time manage. I'm not the person, like some people I've seen, like nursing students who they are like time management to the T. Like they'll be like, all right, Monday, August 5th. And they'll break down the whole day. Like they'll be like, 1 o'clock do this, 2 o'clock. And they'll literally at 1 o'clock they'll do this. I can't do that. I tried and I was like, girl, no, you're not going to do that. Because sometimes at 1 o'clock I'm like, girl, I want to take a nap. I'm hungry. I'm about to go to the store. So I end up not studying until like 9 o'clock because I like to study at night. I feel like I concentrate more at night. So I can't do that type of time management. But what I do is I'm like, all right, Monday you got to study. You got to get this done. Tuesday you got to get this done. Wednesday you got to do this. I try to stick to that with my planner. So I write on my planner all right, Monday, you know, you have this due, so get this done before then. Or, you know, Friday, you know, you got your care plan that's due, so try to get it done either Friday morning or get it done Thursday. You know, I try to give myself time frames to do stuff. Usually if you have an assignment due, you have a little bit more wiggle room, because usually assignments, at least at our school, aren't due till like 12 a.m. or like 11:59, like on a Friday. So say if you wake up early on a Friday, you're off, or you're at work, you're like, I can get this done real quick at work. So I at least try to get stuff done before, like, you know, things like that. For studying though, I try to study at least like I try to study at least like 2 weeks before a test, but next semester I probably try to go like every day, but try to study at least every day or every other day before a test. That's what you're supposed to do. I did not do that. I'm not recommending you guys do that. Of course I did good in school, but I'm telling y'all to try to study as much as you can. So try to write that at least every day in your notebook, and try to at least go for 5 days a week. Say if you do miss, like, that's another way I time manage. I'm like, okay, if I miss this day of studying, I have to do it the next day. You get what I'm saying? So that's really the main thing I really did, is just put it in my planner and try to stick to my planner as best as I can. If I did write it in my planner and I didn't do it, I would tell myself, you have to do it tomorrow. But again, I'm not like the type of person that I have to have time management to like the hour and the second. Like I'm like, at 2 o'clock I'm about to go eat a lunch, and then 3 o'clock I'm about to go into bed. Like I'm not about to do that. But I do write in my planner when I want to study, when I need to get something done, and I try to stick to it as best as I can. That helps me to manage my time. I also write out all the days I work, everything. Like my life is in my planner. That helps me manage my time too, because when I can see my week and see when I work, when I study, it helps me to figure out. So if it was a day that I'm like, I don't want to do nothing this day, I want to sleep in the bed and be a lazy bum and watch freaking My 600-Pound Life, I'll be like, all right, you better get everything done these days, because you know you're not going to do nothing this day. Or if I got sick on like a Tuesday, I could be like, well, just write everything out you want to do for the rest of the week, since you had a day that you couldn't do nothing. So that's just how I time manage. It's just I write it in my planner. I try to stick to it as best as I can. If I can't stick to a day, I make sure to do everything the following days. So that's just how I manage. Again, I'm not like a huge time management. Like I manage stuff kind of in my mind when it comes to certain things, but that's just kind of how I've been dealing with stuff and not going crazy. What else is going? Oh yeah, the question was, how do you kind of like write in your planner and stick to your planner? Somebody actually threw my new planner away or lost it at work, and I was so sad. But I'm gonna show you guys my old planner. This is the planner I had my first year in nursing school, and I got this from Target, and I love Target planners. They're cheap and they're cute, and I love them. But when you get into nursing school, this one, okay, I'll use this part. When you get into nursing school, usually it's like they give you a planner, but they won't really give you for real, like, this is what it is, probably into the end of the week or going into the second week of school. So in the planner, when we finally get, like, when we get our first like official planner, because again, you get a class planner, like your teacher say, this is your planner, this has all your assignments, your tests, and what we're going to go over in class. When you get that paper, you just need to get your planner and write out all the days. For example, you might not be able to see it, but I'll just read it out loud. On the 11th, like I have my planner, they said on the 11th we have an ATI testing and we have a calculation test. Then we have our exam 1. Then I write out, okay, we have our care plans due. We had our checkoffs this day. So I would pretty much write everything they gave us for check, because literally on the planner that they give you for class, it'll have your checkoff days, your lab times, tests, things that are due, things you need to watch. I would put everything that they put on the planner, I literally just copied it over in my own planner. That's all you really have to do. You'll see, like, the first day of class, like, everybody will have their planners out and they'll literally be writing everything out in class. Or if you're like me, you always forget your planner when you need it. Well, as soon as you get home, the first thing you should do is just have your planner right open, have your classes and their planner for class, like the calendar that they gave you, and just copy and paste all the way until the end of the semester. Like you see this month, I have exam 1, we had exam 2, we had a lab this day, we had I had to get my flu shot, so I put like, you gotta get your flu shot this day. We had to do like a lot of ATI stuff in fundamentals. We had a paper we had to do. I was like, do your paper, you have check off, you have this is when you go to the hospital. So literally just copy and paste everything. That's all you have to do with your planner. So I recommend the first day of class to take your planner with you. But again, if you forget it or you just don't feel like bringing everything above under the sun, just do it when you get home. And that's kind of going to help you to already be organized before you really even get into school. How you get used to having a planner, all I did was that I started to carry with me and make sure that I had it with me whether I was at work, whether I was at school. I try to start living by my planner, which the way you can get used to it is like when you go to work or when you get your work schedule, you immediately say, let me put this in my planner. You have a doctor's appointment, let me put this in my planner. You know, your friends like, can you do this event? Put it in my planner. Like, you just have to get into the habit of every time something comes up, you put it in your planner. That way that it will become a natural thing. Because that's what I did. I just started this whole summer. I was like, put it in your planner, to the point now that like I literally will make a doctor's appointment. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to put this in my planner so I don't forget. Or, you know, someone's like, can you do this day? I'm like, let me check my planner. Like, because you really have to start to get used to it. So that's how I got used to looking at it, is that I would literally go into my planner. If I need to work, they're like, can you work this day? Let me look at my planner. You got a doctor's appointment? Let me check my planner. You know, because you'll start getting to the habit of doing that. Now, this is Jasmine. She's in my cohort after me. Hey, girl. She also asked about precepting. I do not know a lot about precepting. All I know about precepting, because that's your last semester, is that you have to have a certain amount of hours. If you extern at a hospital, you cannot precept on the floor that you are on. Also, at some hospitals, like at the Magnet Hospital I work at in ICU, if you precept in critical care, you cannot, if you extern or work in critical care, you cannot precept in critical care. So if you work in ICU and you want to precept in the EC or ED or ER, you can't. That's all I know about that. I don't really know any more specific than that. When I do get into my last semester, best believe I will be asking, because that's the main thing I've been thinking about since I'm getting into my second year of nursing school, is what exactly is going to go on with that. But so far that's all I know, and I'm sorry I can't really answer that question for you, girl. I'm sorry. Alright, I'm going to answer just a couple more. I think that's all the ones I got on. Oh, okay. This is going to be the last question, because this video is going to be really long. So this is going to be the last question. I'm probably going to break this up in two parts. But what is the hardest to learn? Med-surg, fundamentals, pharmacology. So, honestly, I think I think fundamentals was kind of hard, just because fundamentals was I was overthinking it. I'm a very critical thinking person. That's why I really want to work in critical care, because I'm the type of person that I'm just like, you know, the question could say, Becky's sat in 80, you know, what would you do? And I'm going to be sitting there like, you know, did she get turned? Is Becky old? Does Becky smoke? Does Becky have a COPD? You know, I'm thinking, and the answer will literally be like, you know, turn her O2 up or something like so simple. And I'm just like, what's going on with Becky? Like, I just want to know the ins and outs of Becky. And I'm just like, you don't, and the teacher's like, you don't need to know all that, girl. ABCs, what you trying to do? But I'm like, I need to know Becky's history. I need to know Becky's, what medication Becky on. That's just me. So I struggled in fundamentals for like the first test, and like I really struggled because I was, really thinking way deeper. And fundamentals is a class that's very simple. They did say at our school that they're trying to make fundamentals a little bit more difficult, because a lot of times students come from fundamentals and it's a piece of cake, and then you get into med-surg and you're like, oh hell to the no. This ain't what I was doing in fundamentals. You're like, woo girl, this is not what I was learning. Okay, so they are trying to make it like more like med-surg, but to me that was the hardest class because you don't know what to do. But I feel like if you don't critical think and you don't have those skills, like you were in college and you never had a teacher that really made you think beyond like, what is this or what is that or what does this mean, then med-surg is going to be very hard for you. I realized that people who struggle in med surg are usually the ones who don't know how to critical think or who don't know how to study. If you go into nursing school, you don't know how to study, or you don't know what works for you, or you can't retain information, or you can't think beyond the question. Like, because in nursing school, they'll give you sometimes a freebie, like, what does this term mean? And that's literally 1 out of 50. And I'm just like, when I see questions like that, I'm like, praise God, because this is an easy 2-pointer. But 90% of your nursing questions are going to be, it's not going to be very obvious, or a lot of times it is simple, but you just have to kind of critically think. Like, it'll be a question about the heart, like, this patient has this, they're not, putting, they're, like, this person has some type of heart issue. What would you expect them to be showing? And, like, you'll have all these different answers. And I'm just like, what? This wasn't in the book. This wasn't in my notes. But really, the answer would be something like, I think I had missed a question like that on a test, because I was really thinking, like, really hard. And I was like, and then, like, we had our final, and I was like, I figured out, girl, just critically think. Like, just come on now, like, common sense. If you have some type of heart issue, I think it was like cardiopathy, something like that, where it squeezes your heart. I was like, girl, if you have this issue and it squeezes your heart, your cardio output is not going to be good, because your heart's getting squeezed. So you ain't going to be able to put out as much as you need to function, which means you can have a lot of issues with, because your heart, oxygen, all that plays a part together. So pretty much the answer was like, your cardio output would be low. I put something totally different, but I wasn't thinking logically, like, duh, if your heart's getting squeezed, it's not going to be pumping adequately. If it's not pumping adequately, you're not going to get blood like you need to. That means your output's not going to be adequate. But if you don't know how to critically think, you're going to be sitting there, you're going to be like, what? I know this means it's squeezing of the heart, but I don't really get, and you're going to miss it. So that could be hard. For me, again, fundamentals was harder for me, just because I was trying to figure out how to study for that class, and also just getting used to NCLEX questions. But again, if you don't know how to critical think, you don't know how to study, then med surg would definitely be very hard for you. So if you go into med surg, definitely try to figure out how to study. Definitely start doing critical thinking questions. Definitely try to figure out what works for you, because it will be a struggle for you. Alright, so that is the end of my Q&A. This video is going to be long, but I did answer all the questions I got on Instagram. So if you guys, I do know I have more questions that I got on YouTube, so I will do a part 2 video. So if you have any more questions that you would like to ask me, definitely leave it below on this video, and I will make sure to try to get to it on the second video. Yeah, so ask anything you want me to know, anything you want me that I did not answer, or that you feel like I should answer. So definitely leave it in these comments, or if you want to follow me on Instagram and DM me, I'm totally fine with that as well. So yes, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Bye, y'all. So I decided not to go to that school, and I was like, I'll take my chances. If I don't get in, I'll just wait a semester and just apply to my other school when they actually open up nursing applications. Again, I talked to a lot of people who went to Chamberlain. They said they liked it and they felt like it was worth it. I personally feel like